That's right. Supreme Court has ruled on Trump's claims of immunity in the election case, which is pretty crazy. Things are getting pretty crazy out here. I'll be talking about the bad parts of this and maybe the good part, okay? The good hypotheticals. Let's get started.
Paula Reed, I know you've been listening to this decision. What have we heard?
We have. Of course, this is not a thumbs up, thumbs down. This is a complicated decision. We just got it here. It's an opinion from Chief Justice John Roberts finding that former presidents are entitled to absolute immunity for official acts, but not for unofficial acts. So what does that translate to? Well, this is something we saw that was sort of signaled in...
Let me tell you, okay, anything you can massage into the official act category, you can get away with. Like, for example, if, let's say, the current sitting president orders SEAL Team 6, as is in his purview as commander-in-chief, to assassinate his political rivals, that is technically under the purview of the presidency. If, for example, the president, sitting president, decides to do a military coup, that's now legal. Let's go, boys. Let's have some fun with it. Why the not? You feel me? Let's go. Let's go, Brandon. What is happening? Dark Brandon time. Send habit to Gitmo. That's what I'm talking about, dude. Get freaky with it. Get freaky with it. Throw all the governors that you don't like in Guantanamo Bay. Okay? Fuck it. Literally go into the Department of Education and wipe out all the records. Who's going to stop you? You're the president. It's an official presidential purview. Do it. Do the thing. Fucking YOLO mode. SCOTUS said Iran-Contra was unprosecutable. Nixon, literally everything Nixon did, vindicated, okay? Wasn't wrong.
In essence, all of the details as to the allegations made, the accusations made in the Jack Smith indictment of Donald Trump, not all of them, but many of them, the court is saying, we are sending this back to the district court. They have to decide whether Trump's communications with the American people, calling them to rally to the Capitol on January 6th, and everything that happened after that, the disruption of the counting of the electoral votes, the sham electors scheme, all of that, whether or not that's an official act.
I mean, I'm just saying, why wouldn't it be an official act? He did it with the Department of Justice. Half the shit he did, he, was the president talking to a governor. Literally everything Donald Trump has done in office, things that he was impeached for, like a pay-for-play scheme, holding up congressionally approved funding to Ukraine with threats that if you don't find me blackmail on my political rival, technically that is not illegal. You're the president. You're talking to a foreign official. That's like well within your purview. This is entirely presidential, which is so crazy because like as the president, you can still do illegal shit as the president. Like what the are we talking about? That's Nixon. Nixon did that, right? Nixon did that. Donald Trump did that too, which is crazy. And I said this before when like this was first being brought in front of the Supreme Court. I thought, they'll probably do like some silly carve out, right? They'll probably try to do like a silly ass carve out at most. They won't give him like immunity as like immunity for things that the president can do as the president. They won't give him like, they won't shelter him from that because that's like broad reaching. That's a broad reaching decision. And it's completely antithetical to like the founders, right? And what this country's foundation looks like. I mean, this is like the idea that no one is above the law, the idea that we do not want God, king, emperors. Like that was perhaps one of the only American principles that I agree with and that is supposed to be held up in theory, right? This is a direct attack against that. This is a direct attack against that principle. This is a direct attack against the founders. I'm not saying that like people are obviously not, I'm not saying that people held on to that value. Like I'm sure, yes, of course, in the United States of America, many people are above the law, but never officially, right? Like never to this degree. So it is really damning. This is a really damning decision, especially a president being like, yeah, no, actually, we've decided that presidents can do whatever the fuck they want. We've decided presidents are above the law. Like it's pretty goddamn un-American,
What's most significant about that is the U.S. Supreme Court could have said, we're remanding this to the district court, to the lower court, and whatever they say goes, and we will uphold that. They didn't say that.
Exactly. To the contrary. This case will not go before the election. It will not be tried before the election, and here's why. Supreme Court has just said there is such thing as criminal immunity. The test, as we anticipated, is essentially official acts versus unofficial acts. We're sending it back to the district court, and this is an important detail, the court says several times, whatever the district court finds can be appealed before trial. Jack Smith had made an argument of, well, maybe the district judge, the trial judge can work it out and send it to the jury. And then the jury can separate official from unofficial acts. Several times in this opinion, the Supreme Court, the majority, says explicitly whatever the judge decides about what's official or unofficial, what's immune or not immune, that can be appealed back up. 0% chance that happens before November.
So why?
I like that we have the distinction now, which is like official crimes versus unofficial crimes. If he steals a candy bar, like that's prosecutable, right? But as president, if he sends the SEAL Team 6 to go and I don't know, steal all the candy bars from the factory directly, then it's like, well, technically he's authorized to do that. So it's like within the official scope of the presidency, or at least something that you can defend on that idea. That's wild. I saw a reporter tweet earlier basically saying that after this, if Trump wins, he's going to start every sentence with as an official act. He will say it 100 times a day to do anything he wants. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty fucked up. Does this mean that a president could never be prosecuted for war crimes? I mean, no president was ever going to be prosecuted for war crimes anyway, but this is definitely official, yes. At least not by the American courts. Surely calling the Georgia governor to ask for votes is unofficial? No, that's the president who maybe genuinely was afraid that there was voter fraud happening and wanted the Georgia governor to investigate and find 11,746 votes. Before today, you could say that that is illegal and ridiculous and what the fuck are you doing? Except after today, well, he did it in a presidential manner. So who's to say it's illegal? It's great.
I do that. I mean, if they are saying, hey, we're the U.S. Supreme Court and we're going to have the final say on this no matter what, why not just make it clear? Everything's delineated in the indictment. Why not just make it clear? And if Judge Chutkan decides X, Y, or Z, we will agree with that. Why not just be explicit?
Because the Supreme Court, they're in a court of appeals. They want to see a record, right? And I think, you know, with Judge Chutkan just kind of,
bro, this guy looks like the shittier version of the general that they have all the time. What was it, McMaster or whatever? You guys can't find another type of guy? What's happening? He looks exactly like that fucking general dude. General Thumb Man.
dismissing out of hand.
That's so irrelevant to the
all conduct whatsoever. The president has no immunity for all criminal conduct, for any criminal conduct. They've gone back and said, no, you need to go look at this and then come back to us based upon what we've said in this opinion.
And the other thing is, well, it's the right and rules governing when and how to appeal aren't set in stone or aren't entirely clear. And I think they felt some need to delineate that this is an appealable order. They aren't always, and sometimes some things you have to wait to appeal until the end of a trial. They're giving whoever it is, and probably Trump, the opportunity to appeal during trial.
Well, let me ask you, do you think that if Judge Chutkan had ruled differently initially and said, basically closer to this, the conversations with the Justice Department are clearly official acts, I'm not going to count them, but the other ones, like if there had been a less of a...
Bro, like the conversation with the Justice Department or official acts is so crazy. Like that, even that in and of itself literally means that you can legally do a coup or illegally do a coup. And if it works, then that's great. If it doesn't work, it's still not prosecutable because you did it as the president. Like that is what this, maybe I'm misunderstanding this, but like, remember the hypothetical that I brought forward to you guys? And then they literally used that early on against the Supreme Court, where like I think it was Sotomayor who asked the question to Trump's prosecutors or Trump's lawyers and was like, so do you think the president can use SEAL Team 6 to assassinate someone? And they said, yes, under a hypothetical, that could be perfectly valid. That could be perfectly considered permissible. That is literally now after the Supreme Court decision. Like maybe I'm wrong and I'm just going off of like what I've read from what Sotomayor was saying. But that kind of feels like that's what's allowed now. That is like allowed. It's valid. So to them, to everyone listening, I say, Joe, send them in, baby. Put a bunch of doorbusters up in this bitch, okay? Send them to Mar-a-Lago. Send them to Mar-a-Lago. Send the door kickers in the Mar-a-Lago. Get it done. You feel me? Get it done. It's not illegal. The Supreme Court gave you the opportunity. Don't be a bitch. That's the only way you're going to win. Yeah, I mean, she literally brought this up, which was like a hypothetical, but now not so hypothetical. Sotomayor's dissent. The president of the United States is the most powerful person in the country and possibly the world. When he uses official powers in any way under the majority's reasoning, he now will be insulated from criminal prosecution. Orders the Navy SEAL Team 6 to assassinate a political rival, immune. Organizes a military coup to hold on to power, immune. Take a bribe in exchange for a pardon, immune, 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 immune. which, by the way, it's ironic because with the exception of like ordering SEAL Team 6 to assassinate a political rival, Trump basically did the other two things. That is the reason why they're having this deliberation. That's the reason why the majority, supermajority Republican Supreme Court made this decision known. The entire reason why this happened was because Trump was doing that. He tried to do the shittiest coup of all time, no military riz whatsoever, constantly kept calling the generals gay and woke and losers, so they didn't do a coup with him, but he still tried nonetheless, turned into an insurrection, yada, yada, yada. That's one thing. The other thing is he also did quid pro quo with other foreign leaders. Like he straight up did that. He also, and this is, I can't say this with 100% certainty, but I'm pretty sure there was a lot of going on with the presidential pardons as well. This motherfucker pardoned Paul Manafort, Steve Bannon, and every other person that was in his like orbit on his like up until the last day of office. So it's pretty wild, and none of that is prosecutable because that's within the purview of the president. Whew, it's pretty crazy. It's pretty wild shit. Dude, this is like, I feel like this is a constitutional crisis, but I guess at this point, we're so used to it, we just don't even think about it. We're just like, whatever, whatever. Is that why you're streaming from abroad as an insurance policy so Trump can't go after you win? First of all, the entire world is America's playground. If an American president wanted me assassinated, they could do so. And they basically could do so before, but now they definitely can do so. It is what it is. This is, Nixon vindicated, baby. That's right. My Maoist king, Richard Jebediah Nixon, vindicated. Total and utter cultural victory, total and utter legal victory. Why are we even chirping about this guy? He was good. He was not bad. Watergate was awesome. We should do more Watergates, actually. Anyway, we'll get through the Sotomayor dissent in a second. Let's continue.
The sweeping, of course he can be indicted on any of this stuff, ruling by Judge Chutkan. Would this not have been ended up where it was today? Did she open?
I like that they also were like, hey, by the way, if you do try to continue prosecuting him, you got to bring it back up to us again. And who knows what we'll say next time. You know what I mean?
The door for a decision like this.
She did. I think Judge Chutkan's going to have a lot of regret. When she issued her opinion, it just said there's no such thing as automatic immunity for everything a president does his whole 4 years. When I was reading that, I said, okay.
And the Supreme Court said, hold up, that's not true, actually. We've decided that you're wrong. That's crazy, man. That's like, what are we doing? What the fuck are we doing here? It's a clown show. Total clown show.
Where's Part B? I expected Part B to be, and I find, having reviewed the record and reviewed the documents, and I find that even if there is such thing as immunity, he was outside the scope. And by the way, that's what the Court of Appeals did on their ruling. The problem is, as Jim was saying, the Court of Appeals and the Supreme Court, they're not fact finders. This can only be done at the district court level. And so I suspect Judge Chutkan is feeling some regret. It wasn't like it was some leap of logic that she should do that. This happens. There are hearings. For example, in the Georgia case, Mark Meadows is trying to get his case.
Yeah, actually, it's the district court judge's fault. Yeah, totally. Bro, that's crazy. Okay. Like, I'm sure if she crossed her T's and dotted her I's, the SCOTUS would have reacted in the same way that they're going to react to this, because they are not a serious legal body. They are not actually applying some kind of interpretation that is differing from one another. Okay. They're just literally managing the influence that they have alongside the interest that they have. Okay. That's why when you're a Republican, you react like a Republican would. If you're a Democrat, you react like a Democrat would. Like there's some differences. You have like a little bit of a centrism, at least for those institution lovers in the Supreme Court. John Roberts being one of them now. But ultimately, yeah, this was the expected. This was not to this degree, but like some kind of mechanism to defend Donald Trump, to ensure that Donald Trump's court case is not held before he officially becomes president, was the ultimate goal here.
If the president decides that his rival is a corrupt person and he orders the military or orders someone to assassinate him, is that within his official acts for which he can get immunity?
It would depend on the hypothetical, but we can see that could well be an official act.
That was a stunning moment in April. Did the court just say, yeah, you can assassinate a political rival?
No, I don't think they did. That's a ridiculous answer by Donald Trump's team, a dangerous and reckless answer. One really important thing.
Why? No, that is what the Supreme Court said, though. What do you mean? Oh, that's a ridiculous and dangerous answer? No, that is literally what the Supreme Court decided. Like, that is what it is. You can consider that to be reckless or dangerous, but that is ultimately the case. I feel like, you know how I've talked a lot about Americans in the Western world coping with like how much better they are than like Eastern traditions and stuff. Like we orientalize bribery. We're like, oh, Pakistan, India, there's so much bribery there. And then we codify it, right? We codify bribery. We make it legal within the boundaries of federal regulation, federal regulation. Right? What do? We call it lobbying. Corporate lobbying is legal. It's somehow different than bribery. And I feel like this is a very Russia moment. We talk about like, oh, Vladimir Putin assassinates his political rivals. Like it's really fucked up. And it's like, here we have the American Supreme Court literally saying like, no, it's fine. Like it's illegal, but it's within, it's an official, as long as it's an official act, it's not prosecutable. So how is that any different then? How is that any different? Like we're over here chirping about Russia all day, every day, but we're like, yeah, no, it's actually illegal now, so it's different. We're doing it through legal channels.
The basis for Donald Trump's legal argument that maybe he can order an assassination and still be okay is this preposterous argument that they offered below that, well, a president can only be indicted if he's first impeached by the House and convicted by the Senate. The Supreme Court explicitly rejected that argument. They said impeachment has nothing to do with this. That's not the test.
To your question, Jake, someone's got to decide what's the official act, right? And the challenge here, and this was what Sotomayor was getting at in her point, somebody has to make the call as to whether even the preposterous...
Like, it's just so stupid. You just added another hurdle to clear. Oh, is this an official act actually, or is this not an official act actually? Who gives a What do you mean? That's insane. It's just illegal. What you are adding an unnecessary hurdle, an additional bar to clear in order to prosecute a former president. Okay, that's ridiculous. And they did this with Chevron deference too. They did this with the other decision. Now you can't have a regulatory agency act under the boundaries of like any of the former acts that gave the EPA and all these other federal regulatory agencies the power to react, which they rarely ever do so anyway. But when they did, now they can't do that. Now they're open to litigation. Like now a court has to come in and decide whether or not they're allowed to do certain things. And that in and of itself is also adding another additional layer to the regulatory body's mechanisms. It's just completely, utterly unnecessary. And the ultimate goal is to basically allow presidents to do whatever the fuck they want without any sort of legal scrutiny. That's number one. And allow corporations to do whatever the fuck they want without any sort of regulatory scrutiny. It's great. And this happened in the same week, by the way. The Supreme Court is nutty, dude. They're so insane. The only thing literally stopping us from having lead in our food is state level regulatory agencies that are underfunded. Yeah, well, good luck. Dude, everyone's talking about like microplastics making everybody gay. Guess what, dude? You're going to get a lot of those. You're going to get a lot more microplastics, baby. What are you going to do? We have no regulation. Anyway, yeah, Sotomayor's dissent is pretty powerful. It's good to go through it a little bit. The Supreme Court rules. Here's the senior writer of Slate doing that for us, the summarization. The Supreme Court rules that President Trump has absolute immunity from criminal prosecution for all official acts, in air quotes, he took while in office. The vote is 6-3 with all the liberals dissenting. Sotomayor dissenting says, today's decision shields presidents from prosecution for criminal and treasonous acts and makes a mockery of the principle foundational to our Constitution and system of government that no man is above the law. That's like inherently the most un-American decision that the Supreme Court could have taken, by the way. The founding fathers, they didn't agree on whether or not you should be able to have slaves or not, right? Pretty fucked up if you ask me. But there was two things that they were united on, okay? Well, with some exceptions, but for the most part, the spirit of like the American nation's development, the fundamentals, the one good thing that they maintained for the most part was no man is above the law and presidents are not God kings, okay? No emperors, no monarchs, none of that. And also secularism too, but that's like, even that's being called the question right now. You got the Louisiana Supreme Court, you got Oklahoma with the Bible reading and whatever in public school. So like even they're ripping that shit apart too. They're just flexing at this point. I feel like the American Christian nationalist right is basically just, in flex mode. They're like, what are you going to do about it? We'll do whatever the fuck we want. But ultimately, the entire spirit of this nation was built on the idea that presidents can't be emperors and that no man is above the law, right? Why is there even a system of checks and balances if that's not the case? But yeah, now they have very openly declared, no, some men are above the law, actually. Presidents who are kind of like God kings in that sense. Project 2025 incoming, they told you, guys, you need to understand something. Biden is currently president. This is why I keep telling you, motherfuckers, like Project 2025 is nothing, because it's everything. It's not like this is a new thing. This is like what I've been warning everyone about for years and years and years. Republicans very early on realized, oh, if we do court packing, if we just put ideological judges and justices and we slam them into the court structure, we can just completely capture the judiciary, and then we can just no longer have to utilize the legislative body. There's too much discourse. There's too much back and forth in the legislative body. We can always say states' rights, states' rights, states' rights, and move our initiatives through state legislatures that you can absolutely cook the books on through districting, and basically pass like insane legislation at the state level, and then have that be tested in the courts and go all the way up to the Supreme Court so that it's like actually considered valid and permissible. And that's precisely what has been happening. It's not like this is a new phenomena. This is not Project 2025. This was Project 2005. Okay, this was Project 2000. You know, it's not a new thing. This isn't even touching on the other case released today. If you remember, the Chevron decision lets anyone sue, and judges can randomly overturn any new regulation. The one today makes the Chevron retroactive, and now you can sue over decades old regulations, incoming 10,000 lawsuits to shut down all the agencies. Yeah, that way, by the way, you don't even need the president. You don't even need the president to be a Republican so he can like cripple the institutions by refusing to appoint people into the positions that you normally would appoint people to, or appoint like Scott Pruitt or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, you can just straight up leave out the regulatory agencies to die in the hands of like an endless amount of litigation from corporations. It's great. It's wonderful. It's awesome. Thank you so much to the Supreme Court. I mean, this is the most fucked up Supreme Court. Holy shit. I mean, obviously, you know, we had some Supreme Courts in the past with the whole slavery stuff, but like this is pretty bad, man. This is pretty far-reaching. It's pretty bad overall. It's up there. One of the worst Supreme Courts. Shout out to RBG. Oh yeah, shouts out to RBG. My goat, my queen. Thank God she didn't retire. Justice Sotomayor, with whom Justice Kagan and Justice Jackson joined dissenting. Today's decision grants the former president criminal immunity, reshapes the institution of the presidency. It makes a mockery of the principle foundational to our constitution and system of government, that no man is above the law, relying on little more than its own misguided wisdom about the need for bold and unhesitating action by the president. Annie 3 at 3:13, the court gives former President Trump all the immunity he asked for and more, because our Constitution does not shield a former president from answering for criminal and treasonous acts. I dissent. Never in the history of our republic has a president had reason to believe that he would be immune from criminal prosecution if he used the trappings of his office to violate the criminal law. Moving forward, however, all former presidents will be cloaked in such immunity. If the occupant of that office misuses official power for personal gain, the criminal law that the rest of us must abide will not provide a backstop. With fear for our democracy, I dissent. Today's decision, Mark Joseph Stern follows, says, is about as big a win for Trump as he could have possibly wanted or expected. The conservative supermajority creates a sweeping new kind of presidential immunity that will insulate many of his alleged criminal acts from indictment and prosecution. Just huge. Justice Sotomayor's dissent is one of the most terrified and terrifying pieces of judicial writing I've ever encountered. She lists the criminal acts that the presidents can now take with the Immunity Act and says the president is now a king above the law. Yeah, we talked about this already. I covered this part already. You can order the Navy SEAL Team 6 to assassinate a political rival. You can organize a military coup to hold on to power. That's now legal. Takes a bribe in exchange for a pardon. Legal. Immune. Not even legal. It's still illegal. It's just that he's immune. So like, it might as well be considered legal, I guess. If you want to be a semantics pervert about it, I know many lawyers are going to correct me on this and say, actually, it's not legal. It's still illegal. It's just that the president has immunity, which is true. You're right about that. Wonderful stuff. How about removing Supreme Court justices? Brother, technically, you could remove them from breathing. I'm just saying, technically, the president could do that. This is such a good take. This is such a good take because this is exactly how Republicans operate. I think the ruling is fine. What if I become president one day? I want that sweet, sweet immunity. Yeah, that energy is the exact same type of energy that dumb Americans have with respect to tax cuts and deregulation. It's like, bro, you work at a gas station, okay? You make $22,000 a year. These tax cuts are not for you. This deregulation is not for you. It actually harms you, but you don't even understand it. But it's like, well, what if one day I'm rich and a business owner, and then all those poor is just like me right now. They better watch out. Even if these nightmare scenarios never play out, and I pray they never do, the damage has been done. The relationship between the president and the people he serves has shifted irrevocably. In every use of the official power, the president is now a king above the law. Both Sotomayor and Jackson below are extremely skeptical to the majority's arbitrary and irrational distinction between the official and unofficial acts will allow accountability for Trump or any other future president. Yeah, as long as it's official, you're clear, baby. Brandon should do an official act, is what I mean. Okay, Brandon, I know your brain is not too good. I know I've asked you to retire, but let me tell you, okay, I take everything back. Brandon, it's just you and me right now. I'm in this room. It's just you and me. Listen to my words. Okay, Brandon? Joseph Robinette Biden, you are the president. Do some official acts, perhaps against the Supreme Court, perhaps against your other political rivals. Perhaps you should do an official act like abolish student loan debt. You can do that. It is an official act. Do it illegally. You can do it illegally now. You have immunity. Brandon, make sure your legacy sticks. You want to be the new FDR, dude? Make it stick. Use the army. Use the CIA. Take out the stroke gun that you used on Bernie Sanders and start using it on everybody else. I don't know. Take out the car crash gun that you used on John Fetterman. Bust it out. Whip it out. Give him Havana syndrome. You can do it. It. YOLO mode. You can do whatever the you want. No, not even in a video game, brother. Not even in a video game. In real life, I mean. Okay? Why am I meaning that? Because the Supreme Court told you can do it. The Supreme Court told you can do it. You're the president right now, Brandon. You are not the vice president. I know your brain's no good, and you probably forgot that you're president, but let me tell you, okay? You currently are the president. If you're worried about the presidential immunity ruling, good news is that it almost certainly won't apply to them presidents. Oh, yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, let's be real. That's for, Republican presidents only. That is a certainty. Okay? Do you think he remembers saying this? Yeah, good thing it's not politicized, dude. He was so right to not do that. What did I tell you? Here's another HasanAbi classic. At the time, people would be like, Hasan, but if we expand the Supreme Court, then they'll expand it again when a Republican's in power. And I was like, yeah, dude, make it 900 Supreme Court justices. I don't give a what are you, stupid? It's just for this current leadership, for this current tenure, for these 4 years, expand it so you can actually use it, because you currently can't use it. It's being weaponized against you. So literally use it. It's already politicized, stupid. You're so stupid. And I said this back then. People were like, oh, what about the institutions? And then what happened? Make the Supreme Court so big, it just becomes another Congress, completely dysfunctional. Yeah, kill it. Burn it with fire if you can't actually use it as it is currently, and you can't. I just hate this dog and pony show where Republicans get to do whatever the fuck they want to do always and forever. And when we ask a Democrat to have like that same energy, it's like, God forbid. Oh my God. Like, I've literally never heard an honest Republican voter turn around and be like, what do you mean? This seems like a really up thing to just like ship undocumented migrants to New York and Chicago without giving them proper go ahead. That seems like human trafficking. I've never heard a Republican voter turn around and be like, yeah, think of the institutions or think of the law. Like, they don't give a shit. They're like, oh, fuck yeah, it's awesome. Violate the law. They did January 6th. They don't give a no Republican cares. But God forbid a Democrat is like even a little bit outside of the ball game, just like plays it a little serious, maybe 10% like a Republican does. You're like, whoa, law and order, these institutions are solid, these are golden institutions, we gotta defend them, we gotta defend them tooth and nail. It's like, what good does that do to you? Institutionalists, and this is another classic HasanAbi take, institutionalists end up destroying institutions because they concede to the Republicans who always and forever are working against the institutions. Okay, so if you're an institutionalist, honest to God, and you're like, well, what about all these rules that we have? And if you want to preserve those rules, if you want to preserve the sanctity of said institutions, you have to play ball. Sometimes you have to do that in the short term look a little crazy.